So for today, we're going to start by finishing up with the homework for Chapter 6, and then we'll move on to Chapter 7. And then I'll open up the homework document for Chapter 6. I've had it closed because you still had homework due for points, but I'll open it up so if you want to do anything else or practice anything else, then you've got the ability to do that. So I think we had to do, was it 8, 9, 10, and 11? Okay, thanks. Really, nobody did anything fun this weekend? I like to usually live vicariously through students. Huh? Uh-oh. Well, that is not something that interests me at my age. I'm trying to retain my brain cells.
I went snowboarding with one of my buddies and he blew up his slip 26 miles back.
Oh my God. What did you do? Walked?
Tow it out with a backpack. So you don't tow strap either.
You didn't have a what?
Tow strap. So I use backpacks.
To tow out a sled?
Yeah.
What does that look like? I mean, I can't even imagine. 26 miles? Huh. I didn't even know that people went sledding at night. Do you have lights and the whole 9 yards?
Like snowmobiles.
Huh?
Like snowmobiles.
Yeah. No, I know what a snowmobile is. I'm just saying I didn't know you went at night.
Well, yeah. It was supposed to just be a quick trip. But it didn't turn out that way.
Oh my goodness. I'm not a huge snowmobiling fan. It's very, very loud and very smelly. But certainly seems to be a big sport around here. Okay, first one, piece of cake, calculating credit card interest. $380, 21%, principal times rate times time. No big deal, right? We know how to do this all day long. So on the key up here, they don't always follow the same format that we have. So let me just put this little guy on so that we can see that. Let's see. So principal times rate times time, right? Over and over and over. And I think my principal was 380. Oh, there we go. And my rate was what, 21%? And when we do t, what do we always do at the bottom of the fraction? We always put 12. If this was for 2 years, what would I put for my numerator then? 24. We're just going to keep it the same. We always use 12 for a denominator and then convert it to what we're trying to do, right? So that's 112. How much was the interest? $6.65. Alrighty. So you got that one plus one. Ooh, boop, boop. All right, number 9, we're choosing between 2 cards, and I told you to pretend like there was a $100 balance to run the example. Remember I put that up here? So Wyatt Collins recently graduated college. This is not going to be helpful. He's evaluating 2 cards. One has an yes, ma'am. Did I say 1,000? Oh, I wrote down 100. Okay, well, if that's what I said, we can work it either way. Thanks. He's looking at 2 cards. One has an annual fee of $75 and an interest rate of 9%. And the second one has no fee and 16%. And in the first case, assume that he intends to carry no balance and to pay off his charges in full each month. Which card represents a better deal? Do you have to do any math on that? No, that one's obvious. If you're not carrying a balance, you don't care about the interest rate, what are you looking for? Huh? Yeah, the lowest annual fee. So clearly in example 1, he would choose card B because he's not paying any interest, because he doesn't carry balance, and he doesn't have an annual fee, right? So the second one, we're assuming a $75 annual fee, interest rate of 9%. So the second card, you know you've got $75 a year, right? Or the second example, plus principal times rate times time. How much interest am I paying in a year at 9%, right? What's my time? Principal times rate times time. What's my time in this example? 12/12. It's for a year. You guys are looking at me like I'm trying to fool you. This is sort of a trick question. $165. Second one, no annual fee. I'm just working this, right? Obviously, I'm going to choose card B, right? Okay. So +1 for the first part of that, +1 for the second part of that. Number 10. We've got a gal that is transferring cards. She's got a balance of $14,500 on her credit cards. She's considering transferring it to a new card, and they say that for 2% she can transfer her balance for the first 9 months. Calculate the fee she would pay to transfer the balance and describe the benefits and drawbacks. How much is she going to pay to transfer this? I got $290, right? 14,500 times 2%. Go ahead.
I have a question relating to this one.
Please.
So when it says 0% for the first 9 months,
right,
but then after that it was a 12% APR,
right,
like you said, does that mean those last 3 months are still 12%, or
yes, anything past the 9-month mark is going to be at 12%.
Okay, so it's not going to be 8% instead of 12% because then the first 9 months are.
Oh, no.
Okay.
No,
Okay.
it's going to actually be 12%. Okay, so +1 if you got the transfer fee. That was simple math, right? So what do you compare that to then? So didn't I give you some hint on this one too? Or was that the other one? Huh? How much was she paying interest? Where am I? How was she paying? How much was she paying interest on this right now? Did it say?
12%.
She's paying 12%. I did too give you a hint. Here's my notes.
Yeah, you said evaluate annual interest currently at 12% and calculate how long the 2%.
Thank you. I knew I did. Okay. So the question is, how long is she, is it going to take her to recoup that? So she paid $290, right? And she carries if she's got 14,500, and she pays 12%, right? That is, what's 14.5 times 12%? Oh, I guess I could have seen that. So she's got about, after she gets past that 9 months, she's got $145 a month interest, right? So that's on the new card. So we have to compare that to what she's paying on her old card. And I thought, that's what I thought I told you, but I can't find my notes now.
How come it's 1 month instead of the last 3 months?
I'm just trying to compare how long it's going to take me, the difference between what she was paying and what the new card goes up to, that difference in interest, how many months is it going to take her to recoup the transfer fee? Right? And
Would we normally do
Yep.
12% for the whole year, not just 1 month?
Well, I'm trying to figure out, here's what I'm trying to figure out. She's got this huge balance, she pays $290 to transfer it over, right? The question then is, if she doesn't have it paid off, and if it jumps up to 12%, how many months is it gonna take her paying $145 a month to recoup that?
Yeah.
And the answer is 2 months.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, but wouldn't it normally be 12% for the APR, not 1 month?
That is the 12% here. So for 1 month, she pays $145. So after 2 months of doing that, she's recouped. Anything past 2 months is going to cost her. In other words, so if she paid this thing off in 8 months, is it worth doing? Is it worth doing in the first 9 months when she's got 0%? Yes. Once she's carrying a balance and it jumps up to 12%, we're trying to figure out how many months before it's a losing proposition. So here's 1 month of interest. Okay.
But what I did is for the last 3 months, I just split that 12%. APR.
But how did you get to 3 months? Because what we're trying to figure out is how many months.
Because it said the first 9 months was 0%.
Right.
And then it said 12% after that, so I took those last 3 months and divided that by 12%.
But we don't know that she's going to have the balance for a whole year.
Okay.
The question was, how long can she carry a balance before it's actually a net negative scenario she's entered into? So I need to figure out how much 1 month of interest is, and $145 goes into $290 twice. Once she gets past that, it's costing her money to make the transfer. There's a lot of things that are slightly illogical about this. For example, in that 9 months of 0% interest, you're hoping she's going to pay down that $14,500 balance. Be something else. Okay? You guys understand this problem? You're all looking at me like,
Well, I just don't understand why it's 12% APR, but you're only doing it for 1 month.
it's not so much that I'm doing it for 1 month, I'm trying to figure out how many months before it's a net cost to her. So I just want to figure out what 1 month interest is. If that had been a $3,000 charge to transfer, how many months would it be before she was in a net negative? What would you do? What would you do? It was a $3,000 charge to transfer her balances. How would you figure out how many months before she ended up in a net negative situation?
You just divide it.
Yeah, you take 3,000 divided by 145. Now does it make sense? Hold on. Okay. Was that the same one? No. This was 9, right? And this is 10. So plus 1. And then if you said 2 months plus 1.
So, it said in the book, it said calculate the fee that the Latino would pay to transfer the balance and describe the benefits and drawbacks of the balance transfer cards.
Yeah, okay, good, thanks. So this is plus 1. The benefits and drawbacks, thanks for getting me grounded here. So this ties into this. A benefit, what did you have for one of your benefits, Harrison?
I just said how much she'd save if she transferred.
How much would she save? How do you know?
I did 14,500 at 12% times 3/12. We got. One second, I gotta look at my math.
So here's the situation, you guys. she's got, right now, today, let's just say 310, a $14,500 balance. And she can go out until 12/10/19 at 0%. And then once she hits 12/19, it's at 12%. So a benefit is she's got 9 months to pay her credit card off free, right? So she's got a 9-month window to pay her credit card off. A drawback is what we just worked on up here. If she carries that balance past 9 months, after 2 months past the 9, i.e. 11 months, it's going to start to cost her. She paid $290 to get the benefit of the 0% interest. And then I would also say a drawback is it probably adversely is going to impact her credit score. But did you guys have anything else?
Just don't think I understood the question.
What rate is it going up to with the 12?
We don't have her original rate, which that's what I'm saying. This isn't a hugely great problem. There's a couple things that are completely. This we can compare zero. I mean, zero is just zero. Really, past this, you do need to know. Like, is her rate now 6% or is her rate now 18%?
Right, but if you did the math on 12% and it stayed at 12%, it wouldn't matter. Because her interest rate would stay the same.
Well, but she's got this cost to cover.
Yeah, but she also had 9 months of no interest.
Right. So that's 2 months as well.
Right, but I'm just saying from original position to her new position.
Right.
Wouldn't the interest rate have to go up to make that a net negative number? Because she's already paying 12% interest. If nothing changes.
Yeah.
14,500
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're right. This isn't a great problem. Don't focus on this. There's a couple pieces of key data kind of missing. Okay, for example, just what you said, what's she at now? Okay, I think we're kind of overthinking this too. Really, the whole question surrounds how much is she paying and how long is it going to take before that puts her in a net negative position. You do need to know that other piece of data to accurately calculate that. Okay, but I just want you to be aware of that. And then in the drawback somewhere, you need to say something about her credit score. You need to say that after 9 months, there's some impact on how much interest she's paying. And the benefit is clearly she's got 9 months of free money. So if you got like 2 of the 3 of those, take +2. I'll take a look at those 2. And then number 11, we're doing, this guy wants to verify his monthly finance charge calculation, and he pays 15% a year. Does anybody remember what ADB stands for? Average daily balance. And there was 2 kinds of average daily balance, wasn't there? One with purchases, which is what we practiced, and one without purchases, which is just taking beginning and ending balance and dividing by 2. So this one is including new purchases. So it should look a lot like what we just, what happened here? What we just did before. Does anybody remember the column headings, how we set up the table? What are the 3 column headings? Days and balance and then you multiply those 2, right? So I think, let's take a look here. So, let's see, is this the right one? Yeah. So you always bring the previous balance in, and that's what establishes the start. Make sure your days total what month are we in? June, so 30, right? 12, 20, 30 days. And then you add the purchases to increase the balance, and I think did they have a return? No, they had a payment that brings it down. So once you multiply everything out and tally it up, then you've got to divide by the number of days to get the ADB.
I'm a little confused because in the book for the previous balance, it just doesn't say anything, and this is purchases underneath that.
Yeah, I can see where that's confusing.
So I did it differently.
Okay, what do you mean? How did you know what date the
I just
386
assumed
was?
There was no previous balance.
Where did you put the purchases then for 386?
I assumed that, what I assumed is June 4th all the way to June 26th added up was 386, but it was like 388, so I assumed there was $2 extra of like fees or something like that.
Oh, I see what you're saying. That is confusing. 75.
Didn't it say total balance?
Oh yeah, that doesn't, so that is confusing. So you're saying that you came in with 0, and then on June 4th it was 137, and da-da-da-da-da?
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe that's what they meant to do, but those four numbers don't add to 386.
No, it's a $2 difference.
Yeah, I see that.
It's like a bank fee or something.
Yeah, they would have to show you that. If you did it with the way that that we're talking about, I'm okay with that, because that is kind of confusing how they line that out. So you still have to have the same methodology, but your ADB would be lower than the 583.70. So that's the principal that we're getting to throw into the interest calc. Principal times rate times time, which again, if you've got a different, they don't really write these like we do. This is 1/12. 583.70 times 0.15 times 1/12. Or if you have a different number in here, how much less does it make your principal? Anybody else? What'd you get for your principal?
$227 for.
Oh, that doesn't sound right. All right, I'll have to look at that one. That's way too low. Isn't your principal just a little bit lower?
Do you mean the financial charge?
This guy right here, the average daily balance.
Yeah, I got $227.
So how much lower?
It only added up to around 7,000, and I used 31 days, not 30.
Okay. Why don't you guys on the top? I'll look at this one. But who else did it? Like, didn't get the purchases? Okay. Did the rest of you do that as a beginning balance? 386 as a beginning balance.
Yeah, I did that.
Okay. All right. Why don't you let me take a look at that one? So why don't you? How many points do we have? 8, 9, and 10. And 8 was 1 point? Yeah. And 9 was 2? And 10 was 3? Why don't you tell me how many you got out of 6 and circle it on the top, and then I'll look at number 11. So the key takeaways from this chapter, you need to be able to talk about the different kinds of credit cards. You need to be able to reconcile a bank statement. You need to verify credit card charges. I just went back over the test. I'm pretty sure that I make it clear. If there's a previous balance, that's what goes in until the next date change. If it's 0, then it's just 0 until you make your first purchase.
So there was the finance charge from 247 that I think we were supposed to do as well. We didn't go.
The finance charge from what?
Page 247, maybe it was just for personal use, but I really don't get the finance strategies very well.
Can we hold on to that so I can get through most of 7, and I will put something together that I can post, because I don't really want to spend class time on it.
That's okay.
But yeah, good point. Thank you for reminding me about that. I'll make a sticky note. So can you ask me a question about this? Are you struggling with
I'm
this?
really confused with the days, because if you don't have the days correct, it's really like, maybe it's just me struggling with that, but for this one, I also thought that the balance was 0 for the first
Well, that's just how they wrote the problem. That's what we're saying, is that
And
it's
then
kind of confusing because it doesn't say, it should say beginning balance, and I would really clearly show you that.
Yeah, but then on page 247, there's like a pay period, and then there's purchases, and then there's processed dates, and I was not sure how to.
It's posted date. It's whenever it gets posted to your
Yeah,
credit
so I
card.
did that, but then also like what 31 days to go off of, and which is the first day that you make the charge, like how many days there was a balance of that first post, I guess.
Between the 1st of August and the 8th of August?
Yeah, well, I forget exactly, I'd have to look at the book.
Okay.
I was just having
Let me go and try and put something together that you can look at.
like,
Yeah, no problem. The other thing you need to know from this chapter is home equity interest, how that works, and the difference between lines and loans. And then the true and false and the multiple choice comes straight from the slides. But I will never go pick up something we haven't overtly talked about. There's so much content in here. I'm not looking to go pick something off of a sidebar on page 280, right? The stuff we talk about, the homework I give over and over and over, is what I expect you to concentrate on. Okay, so let's go to chapter 7. This is, there's some similarities. It's also about credit. This last chapter was on credit cards, credit lines, basically that. Thank you. This next chapter is on credit loans, consumer loans. And I'm going to hand out, you can see here worksheet 7-2. I'm going to hand out now a copy of those, and everybody should take, where am I? 2 of them. It's something we're going to work on in class together. So I'm going to pass this around, buy on time or pay cash, and everybody should take 2 of these, please. Okay, so we're going to be talking about when to use or not use consumer loans, the different kinds of consumer loans, what to think about when you're shopping for loans, and again, whether you should, if you've got cash, why would it benefit you to take a loan if you've got the cash in the bank to pay for something? So the reason that this is so important is down here at the bottom in red, is that when you start to shop, like for example, say you get out of college, you land your first good job, your car is on its very last breath, and you decide, okay, I want to buy, I don't think new cars are a good idea, but this is, for my example, works. I'm going to actually get myself a new car. And you'll see, Carl Tyler Chevrolet has a 0.8% APR, or some, a great deal, but it's a 72-month loan. Well, is that better than just going to my bank and getting a 3% car loan? Or, can I maybe get a secure loan somewhere else with a CD rather than the actual truck? You have lots of options. So you need to be clear on how to compare the costs and to calculate it. And then lastly, not that this would describe most people right out of college, but say as you were leaving college, your great grandma passed and left you $50,000. Should you take $30,000 of that and just buy the truck? Or should you borrow it? And what are you comparing? What do you think the issue is in that example? You've got the cash sitting in the bank. Or you can go pay somebody interest to borrow it to pay for your truck.
Build credit.
Okay, great. Build credit. Good answer. What else? Why would you not just use the cash? What do you have to compare?
You make money off that money.
You can make money on the money, right? That 50 grand is going to generate some sort of yield. Excellent, exactly. What are the tax ramifications? You actually just hit on all the big issues. Credit score, yield, and what's it going to do to your tax situation? So we're going to look at that. Okay, so a consumer loan is something that is made for a very specific purpose. If you go to Best Buy and you walk out with a big screen TV and you filled out, a consumer loan app, I don't honestly know if Best Buy has their own finance company. Some of those big banks do, or big retailers do, or maybe they use another finance company. But it's for a very specific purpose, right? It's a one-shot transaction. And again, on this little bullet here, as opposed to an open line of credit, we've talked about that a number of times. That's just you apply for and get a chunk of money that's just sitting there when you need it. Okay? That's a line of credit. And so in these consumer loans, once I pay off my TV, it's done. I don't have access to more credit at Best Buy. I mean, I can maybe go apply for a credit card with them. Probably can. They've probably sent me a million apps since I took out the loan. But traditionally, when your consumer loan's done, it's done. And of course, again, we did all of our cash flow planning and our goal setting for short, medium, and long term. And if you don't have something in your plan, there's almost no situation I can think of where you should borrow money to get something that wasn't in your plan. And again, not to hammer home on this, but you never want to borrow money for something where the loan has a longer life than the asset, right? And I think I was telling you that some car loans now are 6 and 7 years. Okay, if you're buying a 10-year-old car, 15-year-old car, it may not live over the life of your loan. And the ones that are really bad with stuff like this is recreational stuff. Boats, sleds, RVs, tow trailers, things like that. Yeah, it's only $200 a month for 10 years. So the asset, you don't want the asset to not live. You want it to live longer than the term of the loan. Okay, so there's different types of consumer loans. We've talked about a lot of these. An auto loan, what do I mean when I say it's secured? Sorry? Yeah, exactly. Secured means there's a form of collateral, and in the case of an auto, it's the auto, right? Other durable goods, again, you go to Best Buy, you get the TV, you go to Aaron's Furniture and get a couch. That's actually secured by the furniture. That gets a little dodgier because, well, you can move a car too, but the asset that they're securing your loan with, you can throw it in the back of your car and move to Texas with it, right? So it's it's riskier is what I'm saying. So those are going to have higher interest rates than cars. Not that you can't move a car, but it's easier, I guess that's a true term, to track down. What's the name of the people that come if you've defaulted on a loan and try and, the whole TV show around it? Huh? Repo people, yeah, that just looks like a fine line of work to be in. I accidentally clicked through that one night and was like, wow, what's going on here? Oh, that's legal. I mean, it's fairly terrifying, actually. Very large guys with unkempt hair and German shepherds. It's like, here, take your TV back. Education loans, we're going to look at different kinds of student loans. Personal loans, oftentimes unsecured. And then last one, this is a fancy name for what we just looked at, a consolidation loan, is when you have credit in different places and it's kind of gotten out of hand because you've got the Best Buy card and the REI card and the Conoco card, and we've talked about this before, and you want to consolidate it all into one credit card. You can do that, and or into a loan where you've got a payment every month. Some credit counselors will advise you to do this. I think the jury's out on whether it's a good idea or not. I think you have to look at each situation. It says you only be used with very strict discipline. The point being, if you've consolidated all your loans, it doesn't mean, oh, goody, I can go get more credit cards, right? Okay, student loans, this is probably what most of you are most familiar with. There's a number of different student loan options. Stafford loans are what you get through the federal government, through the United States federal government. Perkins loans are another option. Those are like quasi-governmental. So, does anybody have a Perkins loan? They're issued through getting your FAFSA and getting your financial aid index, but it's not actually, the loan's not made by the federal government. But it's called quasi-governmental. It goes through their process and it's got their oversight. And then parent loans can be either subsidized or unsubsidized. And these are old numbers. I think it was from like 2015, showing some different percentages and rates. The terms on most of these are 10 years. But we're also going to look at, you can't be required if you graduate college and say you're a teacher and you get your first job in northern Mississippi for $30,000 a year teaching second grade, and you borrowed $80,000 to go to college. You're obviously not going to be able to pay your full monthly payments if you're going to knock it out in 10 years, right? So there's a percentage. We're going to take a look at how they calculate what you are liable to pay. Okay, you've still got to pay the whole balance off, but you're not going to be able to do it over 10 years with the income that you're earning. Does everybody here know, I mean, I'm not asking you to raise your hands because it's personal, but if you have a student loan, do you know what rates they're at? I mean, that's a pretty pivotal question. What rate's your student loan at? Right? So, and have you budgeted, I think some of us talked about this when we were doing cash flow, if you're graduating in May, your first student loan payment is due in December of this year, right? 6-month deferment. So, pretty important to go onto the payment calculator on Excel. I don't have a financial calculator, I'm sure most of you do, but I still use Excel. And figure out what your payments are going to look like. And if it's going to be over the margin we're going to look at in a second here, then you need to make a hardship request from your provider right off the get-go and say, I'm not making the minimum amount to have a reasonable debt ratio. Okay, none of this is terribly new. So consumer loans can come in different shapes and sizes, just like everything. A single payment is like, I go to the bank and I borrow $5,000 to buy a scooter. And they say, in 3 months, pay me back the $5,000 plus interest in one payment. Okay, that's a single payment. If I gave you those terms, what's the first question you would ask me? Haley's saying, I need $5,000 for a scooter, and I'm like, all right, I want to do it in a single payment in 3 months.
How are they earning their money from that?
Great question. I'm earning my money because I'm charging you interest. I'm charging you 9.6%. Now what do you want to know? Great first question. You've learned well.
What periods are you charging that interest at?
How often is it compounding? That's exactly what you would ask. How often is it compounding? What if I told you in that 3-month loan it's compounding every other week? Yikes. What if I told you it isn't compounding, it's just a lump sum payment? That means I'm just tacking it on once at the end. Versus it's compounding once a month. Do you see the kinds of questions you can ask now that you're sophisticated enough to ask? Because I can tell you, it's not always so. Yeah, I don't think that bankers and creditors by nature are trying to defraud people, but there's so much that goes into packaging any one loan that sometimes the disclosure doesn't feel forthcoming unless you're asking very specific questions. And I know that happened to me early on in a couple of very early mortgages in our lives, that I just didn't know the right questions to ask. Installments, fixed scheduled payments, like an annuity. Have we used the loan amortization schedules in Excel? We've done that, right? You should know what I'm saying. No? No, okay. Because a couple of you are nodding like, yeah. So where we go into Excel and we pull up the loan. What is a loan amortization schedule?
We talked about it very briefly.
So we didn't do them? Okay, all right, well that's all good. We'll do it today. What is a loan amortization schedule? We've actually done some calculations on the board around them. So, go ahead.
Would it be like your payment and how much is going to interest?
That's exactly what it is. So now I'm borrowing $20,000 for a really nice Ducati scooter, and the payment terms are 4 years, monthly payments, 9.6%. What's the very first thing you want to know? It's a great question. It's their monthly payments. So every month, a piece of it is going to go to interest and a piece is going to go to principal. Yeah. So the first thing you want to know is how much is the payment itself. And then the second thing you want to know is how much of my $263.92 goes to interest versus goes to principal. And in the early months of the loan, it's going to go a lot to what? Interest. And in the later months of the loan, it's going to go mostly to principal, right? That's a loan amortization schedule where you can go look at every single payment your whole life and see how it's split between principal and interest. Why is that exciting? Probably not that exciting to most of you. But what is exciting is in Excel, you can go plug in a little tiny number like, what if I pay $20 extra a month? And you can see how many months it cuts off your loan and how much it does to the cost of the loan over its life. So we're going to look at that a little bit. Those are called installment loans. And then you can either have a fixed rate or a variable rate. You know what that is. Can anybody remind me what variable rates are, how they're calculated usually? It's something plus something. Yeah, prime plus some markup. Prime plus 9, prime plus 7, right? What's your big question on a variable loan besides what the markup is, obviously? What do you want to know? If I told you, hey, I'll borrow you the money for your scooter, variable, prime plus 2, sounds cheap. What do you want to know? Yeah, I want to know what's prime, and I can look that up. It's whatever the treasury bonds are paying. What do you want to know if it's a variable loan? Well, I just told you, prime plus 2.
Max and minimum rates.
Okay, yeah, max and min, absolutely. Yeah, max and min. And what else, Ruth?
I was going to say something.
maximum, and how often does it adjust? Do you adjust it once a year, once a quarter, once a month, right? Okay, where do you go to get these? You can go to your bank, your credit union. This One Main is an online lender, small loans to high-risk borrowers. You'll find that if you've got a bad credit rate or no credit score, or a bad credit score, that to get money, you're going to have to pay a lot of money. You're going to have to pay a lot of interest to get money. But that's just part of reestablishing good credit. So that's a source where you would do that. Okay, captive finance company like GM or GE. This is what I was talking about. You go to Sears. Is our Sears gone here? Is our Sears all gone?
It's all gone.
I think all the Sears are gone. But I'll just still use it because it's an easy example. And we did plenty of this when we were younger, buying our first appliances. You walk into Sears, you don't have any money, got 2 little kids, your washer breaks down, you don't have a lot of choices. Yeah, you need to get a new washer. And they're like, oh, here, fill out this credit application. And then they finance it and you walk out of the house, walk out of the store with the washer in the back of your truck, right? That's a captive finance company. You buy the asset and you get the credit at the same place. General Motors, General Electric, Sears, Best Buy does that. Where did I just see it that was the most unlikely place? Oh, it was a Bob Ward's. If you go in there and drop $1,500 on a ski package, they have a captive finance company right there.
So would these be the people who would have reward credit cards? Reward cards? Or is that something like entirely different?
A reward card is something entirely different. That's where you earn points or earn miles or earn, well, those are the 2 things you basically earn. This is, why would GE do this? If they're in the business of selling washers and dryers, why would they have a finance company? Same question Ruth asked earlier.
So they're going to make more money?
Yeah, they're going to not only make the markup on the washer they just sold me, they're going to charge me interest for the next 3 years. It's just a side gig for them. And for a lot of people that don't have credit or don't have great credit, they're not going to be able to go somewhere else to get a loan to buy that washer. So they gotcha. Like, you're 25% interest. And that sucks, but, like I said, when you're in a situation, sometimes that's what happens. Okay, life insurance companies. We're having a guest speaker come in and talk about life insurance. I'm not going to go too much into this, and there's lots of different kinds of life insurance. But stick with me here for a sec. So one kind of life insurance is simply, which is what I've always believed in, it's called term insurance. If I die tomorrow, my husband gets $300,000. That's term insurance. Okay? I pay a premium every year, and there's no benefit to it whatsoever unless I die. Okay? That's term insurance. Strictly a life insurance policy. Or you can get something, and again, there's lots of iterations of this, or you can get something called whole life, W-H-O-L-E, which is partially what I just described. If you drop dead, your beneficiary gets some money, called a face value. But also a piece of it is an investment vehicle. And that investment vehicle builds cash value. And you can borrow money against that if you have a whole life policy with cash value.
Is that like a line of credit?
It's like an asset, like a stock or a mutual fund. Here's my problem with it. I go to Brody and I'm like, I want to buy life insurance. And Brody's like, well, I thought I can either sell you just life insurance, which is what I came to him for, or I can sell you this policy that's part an investment vehicle, like a mutual fund. It isn't really, but for purposes of analysis, and part life insurance. Then now all of a sudden I've got this thing that's merged together, and I can tell you, having looked at them a couple times, it's not 100% clear to me how much goes into what every month, how much of your premiums go into the investment vehicle, how much of your premiums go to pay for the life insurance, and how much is my investment earning, right? Like in my mind, they're two separate things. So plenty of people have whole life. I've just never really believed in it. Did you have a question?
Yeah, with the term, so say you're paying this insurance, but you're like not worth anywhere close to 300,000. As long as you're making these monthly payments, like therefore you just get this.
Yep.
Yeah.
With the exception, I couldn't go insure my life for $5 million.
Okay.
There's,
Why-
but it's not. There's not math to it. It's not like, okay, I'm going to take her income and triple it and discount it. If the insurance company, the underwriter, the person that's going to okay the insurance policy, the underwriter sees something coming through, and probably in their mind there is a number. I'm just going to make it up. Let's say it's $1 million. Then they're going to need to start seeing. They're going to investigate more to make sure, because those kinds of policies often, or not often, but could include potential for fraud or homicide, or I'm getting a little extreme here, but yeah, I could. So to answer your question, I don't really know what the number is.
I was gonna say if you only or maybe say you get on this plan for a year, and then coincidentally something happens, and you won't pay so much.
Oh yeah, no, your beneficiary gets it. Oh heck yeah. Well, sweet, but you're dead.
Yeah, think about it.
But there is a number, and ask those questions to the life insurance gal. That's a really good question. There is some number that they investigate at. In other words, they're if I was I want to insure my life for $5 million, A, I don't know that I could, and B, they would be suspicious. Why?
Yeah,
You only make X a year as a community college teacher. You've got a lifestyle that matches that. Why would you insure your life for $5 million? And how are you affording to pay the premiums? And why is your husband pushing you to do that?
Do these life insurance companies protect you from the effects of inflation, or do you have? Is it
Oh, good question. No, you have to change your face value every year. You get once a year, you get a shot at changing it. So in your years where you've got little kids, a brand new mortgage, and all sorts of debt, you still got leftover student loans, you bought your first car, you got a house, you got little kids in daycare, you probably want to maximize your life insurance policy. When you get kind of at the end of that cycle, maybe you don't have so much less to pay on your house, and da-da-da-da-da. And then also, as you get older, your premiums go up in big chunks because you're more likely to die. And I think I pay twice as much for life insurance now as I did 20 years ago. But you can borrow against those if you have cash value. And then last one, sources of consumer loans, friends and relatives, not advisable. Okay, shopping for commercial loans. The key here is to find out what the effective rate is. And we're going to look at a loan amortization schedule so that we can see the total cost of the transaction. And what happens, I want to play around with, what happens if you put extra money, just even little chunks, into long-term loans? What does it do to the life of the loan? Other things to look at, what collateral, and then we've talked about this before too, prepayment penalties. Oh my gosh, I want to pay this thing off early, and they're like, yeah, that'll cost you $500. What? So that kind of sucks.
You just ask, so say I want to invent that for
All these things are things that you actually need to ask. I'm borrowing money to buy my new Ducati scooter, and my paycheck comes in on the 7th of the month, and my scooter payment's due on the 3rd of the month. Well, not that I can't make that work, but that means that it's the end of last month's paycheck that's got to be in the bank to make my scooter payment. For most people, that's not particularly realistic, right? So things like that. Prepayment penalties. What are the late fees? How are they calculated? Okay, so we've talked about this. This is a single payment loan. The interest just accrues, right, or is calculated on it, and then it's called a balloon payment. I just make one big payment. Okay, that's a balloon. One single payment with principal and interest. These are usually short term. I think the example I gave you, the first one of the single payment loans was like a 3-month loan. So how often is interest compounding? This is a word you should know. Well, all these you should know. Lien, L-I-E-N, funny spelling, not intuitive. A lien, so I go to my banker and I'm like, I've got this old pickup that I've got title to, I paid it off, and I want to borrow $5,000 from him for 6 months from my banker. And he's going to, that's a bad example. I'm giving you number 2 instead of number 1. Sorry, let me back up on that. A lien is just basically a piece of paper that the banker is going to file at the county recorders that says that I owe him this amount of money. So if somebody goes to pull my credit record or a record on that asset itself, that lien is going to show up. And being recorded. So if I tell you and you that I'm going to give you the title to my truck to borrow money from you, you're going to file the lien, and then I'm going to tell him, look, here, I'll give you the title to my truck. And you're going to go pull the county recorder's documents, and it's going to show that he's already filed a lien on it. So it's not going to do you any good because he's already got a lien on it. Does that make sense? The same thing, what else have we talked about where we've used the term lien? Or you could have a first lien or a second lien. Yeah, with mortgages. A first is your primary mortgage and the second is your home equity line, but they both file liens against your home. Chattel. Chattel is a British bird. Where this is basically your car, your TV that it said I was talking about, your furniture. It's chattel. I've borrowed money from you, but I walk away with the movable, tangible item: the scooter, the truck, the car, the bed. And a collateral note is when the lender actually takes the piece of paper that shows that I have legal title to it. I mean, I have to sign it over to him and pay the county recorder $8 and notarize it. And he or she really holds on to that title until I paid off the note. Stocks and bonds, things like that.
What about cosigners?
Great question. A cosigner is for any kind of consumer loan. I don't know that that's ever an issue with a credit card. But yeah, with a consumer loan, so you want to go get your first loan, say out of college, for a Prius. And you got a good job, but you don't really have much credit. And they're like, oh, you really need a cosigner. So you come to me, I'm your aunt, and I'm like, I'll cosign. One of the things about cosigning that you have to realize is that note for her Prius shows up on my credit record as if I have the $33,000 loan myself. So I better think about that, because if it's going to take Ruth 5 years to pay off her Prius, and I think in 2 years that I want to buy a beach house in Maui, that $30,000 that I've co-signed to shows up as if it is my own loan, because that's really what I've said will happen. If she doesn't pay off the Prius, I have to make those payments, don't I?
And what's the point of co-signing?
The point of co-signing is to help somebody that's otherwise not going to be able to get started. I mean, I'm not going to do it for you, not knowing you that well.
So the only possible thing.
But I would probably do it for either of my kids if I felt that they really, A, needed what it was, and B, they didn't have any other source of credit.
So the only effect on it is that it could impact you negatively, not even positively, other than giving your
There's no upside to being a cosigner on a loan for the cosigner. You've got all the risk and none of the benefit. It's just a favor. You would really only do it to family. I mean, really. It's a tough ask. It's really like coming and asking somebody to loan you money because they're lending you their credit score.
For the collateral note, so you can use a stock as collateral.
Mhm.
Does the lender then get the interest you earn or get benefits?
Great question. I don't know the answer to that. So I take out a 2-year loan and I give you 100 shares of Microsoft worth 30 grand.
Yeah. They don't get the, who gets the interest?
The earnings, I don't know the answer to that. I've never collateralized anything with stocks or bonds.
They have legal possession.
I would imagine that who's ever holding on to it's getting the dividend or interest checks cut to them. But that doesn't really feel right either. I don't know, I'll have to look that up. It's a good question. Okay, here's the thing I very specifically want to tell you you're not responsible for in this chapter. We don't have enough time to do all of chapter 7. So there's this whole methodology called discounting notes. It's not super common in the consumer loan world, and the calculations are kind of gnarly, so we're just not doing it. So let me tell you, so for Wednesday, you're going to want to read chapter 7, but you don't. Okay, from page 281. No, it's only 281. All right. Don't do 281, the discount method. Okay. Simple, let's do these numbers and then I want to quickly show you Excel and a loan amortization schedule and give you your homework. So, and you've done this a million times, this should be easy peasy for you. Simple interest. I've got a $10,000 2-year loan at 8%. It's a balloon loan. What does that mean again? One payment, one interest compounding date. How much are you going to pay me at the end of 2 years? I give you this money on these terms. 10 grand, 2-year loan, 8%. It's a balloon payment. How much are you going to pay me? In total. What's the balloon payment? That means everything. I'm going to pass this around. You should put your homework in, please. So how do you calculate interest? Principal times rate times time. Easy peasy, right? Principal times rate times time, 24 over 12, $1,600 interest. You tack it on to the principal. That's what you repay me.
Is that 8% APR?
It's 8% APR.
So wouldn't the 8% compound the first year?
It's a simple. It's a single installment loan. It's one compounding. It's a balloon. Yeah.
So how come it's 8% APR, but it says interest for the entire term of the loan, 2 years?
The interest is there's no compounding. That's what those last 2 terms mean. Okay, so just to be crystal clear,
So just 8% every year.
It's 8% cumulative, but there's no interim compounding. I told you that. It's a balloon. Whenever I quote an interest rate, you have to assume it's APR. Like nobody would ever give you an interest rate for 2 years.
If it was compounding annually, just for a person.
Yeah.
So it would be 10,000 times 0.08 times 1, or times 12 over 12.
Yeah.
And then use that number to calculate it again.
Yeah. So it's obviously going to be more than that. Okay. this next one. We're skipping over the discount method. Okay. Installment loans, this is what you go to Excel for. This is, I've got this loan over the life, and I want to see what my interest charges are going to be, what my payments are going to be. So let's just go, I'm not going to ask you to open Excel. I want you to just watch. Or do you think you should open it too and give it a try? Maybe you should give it a try too. So let's just take a look here. Find Excel. And when you get to it, you're actually going to open a template. And it is called just what it is, loan amortization schedule. And create. And there's going to be some numbers in here. But I'm going to have you do two things. I want you to calculate for me, and back to the scooter. Sure. I want to borrow $20,000. These are my choices. So I want to know what the total interest I want to know what the total interest is going to be on this loan and the total payments. Right? Or my second option, obviously same principle, I can get a shorter loan for a higher rate. I'm sorry, always assume monthly for something like this. Not always, but 99% of the time. All right, let's go do the first one together on Excel. Loan amortization schedule. It's not on Moodle, it's in Excel. So open Excel, and then I think it's like, I don't know, the 5th or 6th row down, it's alphabetized. Did everybody else get it? Okay, so let's just plug in the numbers. This is super easy and just easy to use. So enter the loan amount. Enter the interest rate. How many years is it?
6.
Payments per year, right? That's monthly. Start date of the loan, I'm going to pay it off starting next month. At this point, I don't have optional extra payments, so I take that out of there. So what's my payment? Yeah, $331 a month. How much interest am I paying over the life of the loan? All right up in there, isn't it? How much, then, am I paying in total for the loan? Yeah, actually. Right. The principal, 20 grand, plus the interest. Now, jot those couple things down, and then go compare it to the other loan. So it's a higher interest rate, but a shorter time period. That was on what I just put up. Do you need to see it? What was my interest here? 30. Thank you. Ooh, they're very close, aren't they? So it is. This is the kind of stuff, really. I mean, and it takes 2 seconds to throw these numbers in. This really is where you do your comparisons. Now, sorry.
Pay more per month, but you pay less interest.
Yeah, your question is, can your budget handle another $89 a month?
But it's less number of payments due by a year.
Yeah. Okay, now what if you could put in an extra $40 a month? That's going to do your loan. So you only have 54 payments. So you cut, what were we at before, 60? Yeah, so you've cut 6 payments off. 6 times 4, 2,400 for an extra 40 a month. That's not that impactful, but that's not that impactful. But when you do this on a mortgage, it's crazy. You cut years off of your mortgage.
How much of a difference does that make on credit, cutting off like 10 years compared to like 2 or 3?
On your credit score?
Yes.
I don't think anything. Okay, we need to do one more thing in the last 2 minutes. Sorry. So, I gave you this buy on time or pay cash. Right? You each should have taken 2 of these. I'm going to put some data on a piece of paper, and I'm just going to ask you to do the very best you can, plugging this thing up. It's in the book. It's in your Chapter 7 reading. It's not for points. It's just to practice. But using the example in the book and just your common sense.
So you said it was in chapter 7 of the book?
Yeah. Well, no, but you're going to be reading the whole chapter, so you'll find it. It looks just like this. I just copied it and put it in Excel manually. Here's the scoop. I'm thinking about borrowing. Oh. I want to buy a piece of raw land as an investment, and I've got the money. My question is, should I borrow the money or pay cash? And we talked about what the issue was first thing in the door today. The amount of the loan for the piece of land, including closing costs, is $111,755. And I can borrow it at 5.2%. on an 8-year loan. First off, using what we just went and looked at, I want you to figure out the payment for me. That's part 1 of this sheet. Part 2, and I tell you all this, tell me how much I'm paying out of pocket over the life of the loan. This is the number of payments times the length of the loan. subtract the subtract the principal. And this is just on your sheet of paper I gave you. So that's part one. What we just literally did in Excel. I want you to compare that in part two to how much interest am I giving up if I use my own cash. And all you need to know to go through this part of the worksheet is two things. How much interest am I earning in a CD? That money's sitting in a CD right now. So I'd have to cash it in and use it to buy my land. So I'm giving up that interest. But when you earn interest, you have to pay taxes on it. And I'm in the 22% marginal tax rate.
So just to clarify, you take that 5.9%, multiply it by
Principal
111,000, whatever, each your earnings.
over the life of the loan, 8 years. And then you got to pay tax on it. So for Wednesday, I know we haven't done it, but you guys are all smart. Read the chapter. Fill out one of those sheets and do number 2. On page 294. Okay? We'll see you then.
That you put on 294?
That's your homework. So your homework for Wednesday is this and this, and really spend time reading chapter 7 because we're going to spend all day Wednesday on that, and then that's it before the test.
So